Hello and welcome. My name is Natty Cash, and we are once again back to our NCAA Basketball Imperialism series. This is part 15. We are down to the last 68 teams, just like the normal March Madness tournament, and we're going to continue to narrow down to see who is going to be the top program in the country. So, without any further ado, we're going to get right into the first matchup. So, we've got our lovely spinner here. Let's see where we're off to first. And it looks like we're going to see San Diego State in action to start off. And let's see what direction they're going to try to expand in. Looks like, well, they can't go south. We got to respin that. Looks like they're going to head off kind of east, west along the coast, which means San Diego State are going to take on Fresno State for a nice big chunk of California. And it is San Diego State that get the victory. They, for the most part, had a pretty easy time of it. They were close in the first half, but the second half they put the pedal to the metal and got a convincing win. And Fresno State is the first team off the board in this video, as now San Diego has a nice big chunk of the state of California, going all the way up north to the San Francisco Bay Area. But we're back to the wheel. Let's see what our next matchup is going to be. And it looks like we're going to see Morgan State in action. And let's see what direction they're going to try to expand as they get their first opportunity. Looks like they're headed off to the northwest. And for Morgan State, northwest would push them onto George Mason country here, and so they're going to have to face off against the Patriots. And it is Morgan State that gets the victory. This is very surprising for me. A very close matchup in the first half, and then Morgan State just finds offensive rhythm and soars ahead to beat the George Mason Patriots. Morgan State gets their first chance to expand. And now it is Morgan State that gets to remove George Mason off the board, and they get their first piece of land, which actually is pretty significant as they now control most of Maryland and a nice big chunk of Virginia as well. But we are back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And it looks like next up is going to be Notre Dame to see where they're going to try to expand. And let's see what direction they're going to try to go in. Looks like they're going to try to head to the east, where heading to the east for Notre Dame means they just have to fight up against Purdue, the big Purdue. And it is Purdue that gets the victory here. They were leading the entire time and just continued to grow their lead and get a comfortable victory. And Purdue now has taken almost all of Indiana, as they've pushed further north and even pushed into Michigan as well. Back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see Kennesaw State in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're going to try to head further east. And the best that I can see going east is going to hit them against the land here of the Georgia State Panthers. And it is the Owls of Kennesaw State that get the victory. They were close to begin with here, but Kennesaw State took a lead in the first half. Georgia State tried to come back in the second half, but the Owls had too much, and they take down the Panthers. And Kennesaw State now takes a nice big chunk of land, controlling a good part of Georgia and the majority of South Carolina as well. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. It looks like we're going to see Bucknell in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand? Looks like they're going to try to go a little bit to the south, a little bit to the southwest, which means Bucknell are going to try to take on American University for this massive chunk of land. And it is American University that holds on for the win. It was a close game. but it was actually American that was winning most of the time. Bucknell did come in tied a couple times towards the end of the first half, but American University had just enough to pull out the victory. And so the Bucknell Bisons are out of the series as American University continues to expand their territory as they have now gained a good majority of Pennsylvania. We're back to the wheel though. Let's see where we're headed off next. And we're going to see the Terriers from Wofford up next. And what direction are they going to try to expand as they try for the first time? Looks like they're heading kind of to the northeast, which looks like Wofford right here is going to expand and try to take on Charlotte 49ers. And even though it was a tight one, it was the 49ers that get the victory. Wofford actually was leading and had a pretty significant lead in the first half, about 11 points, but Charlotte was able to come back in the second half and then storm forward to get an 8-point victory. And now Charlotte has taken just a little bit more land as Wofford are removed from the board. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And we're going to see the Colorado Buffaloes in action. And what direction is Colorado going to try to expand in? Looks like they're headed down to the southeast, which means for them, they're going to expand down into, or try to expand, and face against Texas Tech. And it is the Buffaloes that actually get to expand for the first time, and they take down Texas Tech. They were leading the whole time, and Texas Tech could never mount a comeback enough to take them down, and the Buffaloes get to expand. And like that, the Colorado Buffaloes have now taken a serious piece of land and removed Texas Tech off the board. I do have to say, I do apologize if the proportions of some of these state lines is a little bit off. I had to redraw them after I filled this in, so hopefully it still looks okay. But Colorado now has a massive piece of land on this side of the board. But we are back to the wheel. Let's see where we're headed off to next. Looks like we're going to see the Miami Hurricanes in action. And what direction are they going to go? Looks like they're headed, well, they can't head that direction, so we'll spin it again. Looks like they're headed kind of a little bit to the west, which means for them, Miami are going to take on Florida Gulf Coast for Miami's first chance to expand. And it is Miami that gets the victory. They go up to a pretty quick early lead, and they never really relinquish it, going on to conquer their first piece of land. And now Miami has gotten their first claim to land as they push up towards the rest of the United States. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see Alabama try to expand once again. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're trying to head up to the northeast, which means the northeast is they're going to take on the newly expanded Kennesaw State. And it is the Crimson Tide that get the victory. Kennesaw State had a very early lead, but Alabama took control pretty early on and went away with another victory. And it is Kennesaw State that gets swallowed up by the Crimson Tide, where the Tide have now pushed all the way and reached the eastern shoreline as they've pushed all the way through South Carolina. But we go back to the wheel. Let's give it a spin. And it looks like we're going to see Canisius College in action for the first time. And what direction is it going to try to expand in? It's going to kind of go northeast, or northwest, sorry. We're going to count that as north because there aren't many options for it to go northeast, but we're going to say that Canisius is going to take on Niagara University. And it is the Purple Eagles of Niagara University that do get the win here. They take a pretty decent lead in the first half and then continue to push that all the way to their victory. And Niagara gets their first expansion of the series as they take a little bit more of the state of New York. And we're back to the wheel to see where we're headed off to next. And we're going to see Xavier in action. And let's see what direction Xavier's going to try to expand in. Looks like they're trying to go north. And to be honest, there really isn't anything that is directly north, so we're going to spin again. And they're headed down to the southeast. And the best that I can do here is when I look at where Xavier is and I go push to that direction, it means they're going to match up against American University to have some of the biggest landmass on this side of the country. And it is Xavier that gets the win. Although American University made it close, Xavier was winning most of the game, but even in the second half, bringing it just down to about 1 point, but Xavier had enough to get the victory in this case. And now Xavier has expanded so much that one, they've pushed out to the East Coast and are in New Jersey. They've also pushed up into New York State, have most of Pennsylvania, and also pushed down into Virginia as well, and control a number of different states. But back again to the wheel to see where we're off to next. It looks like we're going to see these Skyhawks of UT Martin in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand in? Looks like they're trying to head down to the southwest, which means the Skyhawks of UT Martin are going to try to take on Memphis. And it is the Memphis Tigers that get the victory. Pretty clearly one-sided, and especially in the second half as Memphis stroll towards another victory. And the Memphis Tigers have taken more of a piece of land here, removing UT off of the board. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. It looks like we're going to see the Tarleton Texans in action. Well, let's see what direction they're going to try to expand in. It looks like they're headed out to the west, which for them heading out west means they got to take on the newly expanded Colorado Buffaloes. And it is the Buffaloes that get another victory in this video, cruising to a pretty comfortable win in the end. And the Texans are now off the board, giving Colorado a little bit more space in Texas, and actually only leaving 4 programs that occupy Texas. But we go back to the spinner to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see Colorado try to expand once more. And what direction is it going to be for Colorado? Looks like they're going to try to go down to the southeast. And from my estimations, going in that direction of southeast pushes down towards St. Louis. So Colorado and St. Louis are going head to head. And it is Colorado once again with the victory. They take an early lead, and by about halftime, St. Louis does bring it into about 5 or 6. But Colorado does not let up and gets their 3rd victory in this video alone. And now the Billikens are off the board, and Colorado expands even further, pushes themselves all the way up into the Midwest here, into Indiana, Kentucky, Illinois, and all of this expansion happened in this video alone. But let's see where we're going to spin to next. It looks like this time we're going to see Niagara in action once again. And for them, Niagara actually only has one option. They must take on the Musketeers of Xavier, as that's their only neighbor. And Xavier does get the victory. Towards the first half, Niagara actually did make it close and was actually winning for a small portion. But in the second half, Xavier adjusted and then pushed their way to a comfortable victory in the end. And Niagara is now also off the board, giving Xavier a nice control of the western part of New York State. But we are back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see the Florida Gators in action. And let's see what direction Florida wants to expand in. Looks like they're going to try to go up to the northwest, which means the Florida Gators are going to have to take on Alabama. And it was a close contest, but Alabama does get the victory. There was a little bit of back and forth at the beginning, but Alabama had about a 7-point lead at halftime, and they were able to maintain that and push a little bit more to get, once again, another victory. And Alabama now has taken most of the state of Florida, pushing their way further south and expanding once again. But we go back to the wheel to see where we are heading off to next. And we're actually staying in a similar spot as Florida Atlantic are now in action. And what direction are they going to try to expand? As they're actually going to expand for the first time, they're pushing down south or into the southwest, which means Florida Atlantic are going to take on Miami. And it is Miami that gets the victory here. Still a close game, but Miami, once they had the lead in the first half, they did not relinquish it as they go on to get another victory in this video. And now the Hurricanes control basically the southern tip of Florida at this point, as Florida Atlantic are removed from the board. We're back to the wheel again to see who we're going to get next. And it looks like we're going to get the Quakers from Penn to get into action again. And what direction are they going to try to battle in? It looks like, well, they can't really go as far east, so we're going to have to spin that again. And it looks like they're headed up to about the northwest. And it's really hard to tell in what direction that is, but I think it points just in a way where we're going to have an Ivy League matchup, as Penn is going to take on Princeton. And it is Princeton that get the victory. It was a back and forth in the first half, but then Princeton got a lead, and they maintained that lead all the way to the victory. And now Princeton owns the majority of New Jersey, as they've removed their Ivy League rival off the board. And we're back to the wheel to see who's going to go next. And we're going to see Charleston fighting Buccaneers in action. And what direction are they going to try to go in? It looks like, well, it's hard to tell because they're on the East Coast. I'm going to spin that again, I think. And it's in the same direction, so we're going to just basically say that that's south along the coast. So south along the coast for them means they're going to face off against Citadel. And it is Charleston and the Buccaneers that get the victory. But it was a close game, back and forth, with actually Citadel winning during most of it. It wasn't until the very end that Citadel couldn't get any offense going, and Charleston Southern got enough to pull away the victory. And Charleston Southern get to survive another day, as they've chosen Citadel as their victim. But we're back to the wheel to see where we're off to next. And it looks like we're going to see Georgia Southern in action. They only have a couple options of who that they can try to conquer here. And going west means that they're going to have to play the mighty Alabama to see if they can keep control of their own state, or if Alabama is going to be dominant in the South. And it is Alabama once again that get the victory. Now, this was a close game. Georgia Southern taking an early lead and some back and forth action. Alabama started to stretch a lead in the second half, and Georgia Southern brought it back to about 1, but they couldn't turn it over and get a lead as Alabama then create their own lead and get the victory. And with that, Alabama now has serious control over Georgia as well, as they have a pretty significant control of this entire region. And that is where we're going to need to leave it for the end of the video here. Fair bit of changes, but mostly seeing Alabama expand a fair bit, Colorado expand, Xavier expand, and we're really starting to define who might be some of the powerhouses that finish off this video. And it's so hard to tell because Colorado was very small at the beginning and now has taken a majority of this land here. And you never know, they might be here again next video, maybe not. But thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. And we will see you again next time. Bye for now.